Time trial time. Team VR1, Kings Lynn circuit for OTR's Love TTT series. We're a rider down. There's 6 on the start grid, but of course one of them is the camera that's wobbling about, choosing the angle. Now 1 second to go and off we go. You'll see the 5 will go shooting off, and we as the cameraman get left at the start as we come out to on the field helicopter out in location, shall we say. Now, 5 riders tonight. We've got Alex Gold, Stuart Thorne, Tobias Bjork, Frankie Orabana and Pete Dickinson. We were meant to have 6 and we actually had 7 and ended up with 5. The story goes a little bit like this, as we see Alex Gold, of all people, slightly left off the back. Alex fiddling around with his equipment, if you'll pardon the expression, was just sorting a few things out, and was quite capable of getting back on, so there's no real panic in the team when he got left behind, and there he is, safely getting back on. Absolute powerhouse of a man, and probably I don't think I'll offend anybody if I describe him as the strongest rider out of the quintet we have tonight. Now, it should have been a sextet. We actually had a septet because there was one rider saying who had previously said they weren't available tonight, saying, well, it's all collapsed, can I join now? And we said no, we've got 6 riders, and about 2 minutes before the race, one of the 6 couldn't make it at very last minute. Too late to bring back in the other person, and then after we'd started, the person who dropped out said, right, all sorted, I can join in now. But of course, once you've left the start line, you can't have a rider join in halfway through. This isn't American football where you change the team partway through the game and change them back again. The 6 that start need to be the 6 that finish, or in our case 5 that start have to be the 5 that finish. A kilometre out the way. Chasing times now in the tables of the best ones we've seen, I think, are 35-36 minutes for this course. Reasonably flat, and if you know Kings Lynn and that area, you will describe it as very flat. Everybody assumes that Norfolk is flat. Kings Lynn is in Norfolk on the eastern side of Britain, in the area they're called East Anglia. The word England, the name England, comes from the Angles, which were the Germanic tribe that came from where Germany is today, and habited that area of Britain, and England takes its name from the Angles. East Anglia is where, I suppose, the eastern side of their territory would have been, and we have it today in some of the county names still. East of London is Essex, which is the East Saxons. There used to be a Saxon kingdom called, or an Anglo-Saxon kingdom called Wessex, which was the West Saxons, and part of London, certainly the West London area where we all live, is, well, not everybody in this team, it has to be said, is Middlesex. It's not officially really a county anymore, but some of our addresses still say Middlesex, which was the Middle Saxons. And as I say, the Angles and the Saxons make up the phrase Anglo-Saxon, and Anglia out to the east was the Angles area, and therefore you get East Anglia. Now then, East Anglia. Kings Lynn is in East Anglia. Everybody describe it as fat. That's not strictly true. Certainly in Kings Lynn, if you go west of Kings Lynn, it's very, very flat. If you go east, it can be a little bit lumpy. It's not monstrous hills, but it's certainly not as flat as it is to the east. On the on the west. On the west of Kings Lynn, it is absolutely pan flat. It's drained land that's a lot of it below sea level, so it's absolutely flat with lots of fens, dikes, etc., where the land has been drained, much of it below sea level. So if you're from the Netherlands, you'll understand what it looks like. So this course here, I'm not entirely sure whether it goes east or west of Kings Lynn, to be honest. I didn't double check, but if you look how flat it is, you can see there's nothing much to climb. The worst climb, if you look where it says 29th September, just below there, that kicks up to about 2.6%, and that's about as hard as it gets. There are, of course, undulations, so there's bits where if you're going flat out, it will be harder because you're going up a small gradient, but there's nothing that we could remotely describe as a hill. As we clock up 3 kilometres, and we have 22 left. So as I say, target time is probably around 35-36 if we're going to beat the leaders. 37 would be respectable, 38 probably acceptable. Beyond 38 for Team 1 would be a bit disappointing. Team 2 might target 38 to 40. Team 2 did try and ride this last night, but had a lot of problems, and may or may not try and have another go, because the people were dropping out all over the place, and the team was sort of thwarted and had to stop and wait for people. So we might have another go at Team 2, but if we can't get a team together, we're going to have to sit with the efforts last night. But as I say, there were a lot of mechanical dropouts last night, and the day before this one, and as I say, the Team 2 time is up in the air as to whether we do it again when everybody's system is working properly and the internet providers are doing what they're supposed to do. So without much terrain to describe on this, as I say, we're riding down on what we had hoped here. Alex Gold, probably the strongest rider, probably Stu Thorne next, and I think the others probably fairly equal in different ways. I mean, Pete is definitely the elder statesman of the team. He's the one with all the racing knowledge through a career of racing and all the experience. Frankie, Tobias, plenty of energy, but spend most of that probably keeping up with Alex, I would guess. You'll have to ask them about that. So, as I say, the target is 36. We've taken 6 minutes doing speeds of around 40. I mean, they'll need to stay above 40 to come anywhere close to doing that. I mean, there will be the odd dip where they go under it, but you know, if your time's under 40, you're not going to hit the 35, 36, 37 range. But that is the target zone, 35 to 37, I would say. See what we can do about it. Now, the series, of course, if you're not familiar with it, is based on, at the moment there are 3 divisions, but as new teams join, that will expand. Now, after a few weeks, the team that's top of say League 2, Division 2, will move up into Division 1, and the team that's bottom of Division 1 will move down into Division 2, and so on. So as things stand, and this league, this is Division 2, it's probably a bit early to tell who's going to win, but as things stand, it's pretty tight at the top, and West London and VR1 are in the mix. They're going to have to beat a time of around 36 if they're going to win this week in that division, which is probably a tall order, because I think being a rider down is probably going to shave a fraction off this. Now, the other thing that time will tell, and we'll have to sort of watch the form books on this one, but the first week was something like a 25k TT. Last week was 16, and we're back up to 25k. Some teams might be faster on the short ones and slower on the long ones. Some people might prefer the long ones, not the short ones. James Ogilvie, who runs this series for OTR, certainly put up a headline that the form book was turned upside down in week 2 compared to week 1, but that might just be a sign of courses suiting teams. So West London VR1 did better in week 2 on the 16k course rather than week 1 on the 25k course, so this may well be a course that works against Team VR1. This is week 3, so we're going to kind of have to watch this series go through. After the 4 weeks with the relegation promotions, we go through it again a couple of times before we have the what I might call the playoffs at the end of the seasons, at the end of the 12 weeks, where the teams that have come at the top and a few wildcard entries of strong teams get invited to fight it out for the actual title. By then, I think we'll all know which teams are suited to which courses. Of course, the other handicap that all teams have is, I won't quite say it's like herding cats, getting everybody together, but inevitably you can't demand that everybody's available a Tuesday night at a certain time that suits you. Remember, this is West London VR Racing's VR1 team, just for a quick reminder. And in putting the team together, it's it's slightly difficult because not everybody can be available at every time, and you can't always get your strongest team out, as we've seen tonight. We had potentially had 7, ended up with 5. So you know, every team will suffer this. Some teams will have a strong team that suits the course one week and not the other. So there's a certain amount of sort of randomness that makes this quite exciting. Alex looking back there, you can see there's a little button on RGT that allows you to look back, and when you look back, the head of your avatar moves back, and you saw Alex just doing it there. There he does it again, and he was actually saying to everybody, you do realise I'm looking back? And they said, yeah, we can see you. And a little discussion ensued about the fact that if you do press the look back button, which on your screen will give you a view of the riders behind you, you can check the gaps, check who's with you. And Alex does a little wave for the camera just to add to it all. And that's another little button you can press or click on when you're riding. So as I say, if you are riding, there is the opportunity to look back. If you look back, you'll see what's behind you, and this is a very useful tool during the race. Alex making sure that he's got the team with him. Now this is about keeping as close together as possible. Watching the videos, I mean, it's very nice if you can get everybody in a straight line, being the most efficient form for a team time trial. We've all seen that pro race team time trials when everybody's in that perfect line, everybody sort of half a millimetre from the guy in front's wheel, nobody braking or touching wheels or anything. It's absolutely perfect. You're not going to get that on here for two reasons. We can't all go out and practice, and number two, it's slightly more difficult to actually engineer it so that your bike is sitting on the wheel of the guy in front absolutely tightly. You will still get a watt saving if you're in a little bit of a bunch like this, so this isn't a perfect line, but the bunch will give watt savings, maybe not as many, and if you can get a line, it's going to be better. But if you watch most of the teams, most of the time the line is not maintained like you might see in a pro race. Some teams clearly better than others. The other big key to this is the changeovers. You know, it's whether or not when you do change over, the gaps appear as the team shifts position. That takes a bit of practice, and if you're new to this, it's very hard to do. So all new riders will find themselves, I say, messing it up. I mean, not big time, but they'll make little mistakes, and you hear them, oh, sorry. To which I'm sure it's the same for the other teams, but we're always forgiving because every single one of us had to learn how to do this. So here comes the doyen of our team, Pete Dickerson, momentarily going on the front, and he's riding alongside Stu Thorne there, who actually didn't really have much of a warm-up time because he wasn't signed on, and we wondered where he was, and he suddenly was, I'm just about to get changed. He realised we had 7 riders and said, do you need me? And of course we said, yes, good job we did. So Stu Thorne turned up, despite the fact that we seemed to have more riders than we need, even though we ended up with less than we wanted. Frankie Urbana from Italy are currently on the front there. Him and Niccolo Martinoli are 2 Italians in our team. They also ride for Team Italy. They had to change their kit around a little bit. I think Frankie turned up on the starting line with his Savoy blue Italian kit on, and suddenly realised it was a West London VR race, not a Team Italia one, and quickly changed the top half of his kit so that he had Savoy blue with a bit of pink and white in there. So pink and white not necessarily representing anything, but when I was designing the kit, I just kind of felt it went, and it just went with a hunch. There is a little bit of a backstory to that, but I won't divulge that today. That can wait for another day. Now we're 9 kilometres in, so coming up to the first 10. It's a little kink in the road. I'm not sure that these slow you down a lot, but there is a little bit of braking. So if you do get too many bends in a course, it can slow the pace down, but this is a quite healthy 42-43 gradient of 0. Like I say, this is up in the northern section of East Anglia, off the east of Britain, just north of London. I'm sure King's Lynn's not actually just north of London, but East Anglia itself kind of starts just north of London, goes up the east coast. As I say, reasonably flat. It's noted for being flat, but as those of us who have cycled it will tell you, it's not entirely flat in Norfolk. It absolutely isn't. The other thing is that although it may be very, very flat, it is notoriously windy, and what you make up for in not having to climb, you will lose in having to fight headwinds. And I certainly rode the length of the fens on one occasion, and I was going into 20-mile-an-hour winds, so we're talking about over 30 kilometres an hour, and or around that anyway. And it was just terrible, and a couple of Belgian guys came along, and we got together, and we rode in echelons right the way through the fens, and I was just about hanging on to these guys, wondering if I could hold their wheel, and realising that it was so bad without them that I would take the pain when they stopped and just said they were hurting too much, which was one hell of a relief for me, because they were tearing my legs off. Strangely, I was in Belgium about 2 years later, and some guy came up to me and said he knew me, and I said I'd never seen him before in my life, and he said we rode across the fens together. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. The guy remembered me and recognised me. So there we are. Over 10 now. Halfway stage will be the next real sort of test of where we're at. 15 minutes gone. 35.36 is looking a little bit out of reach here. If that's our target, it's 35.36 minutes. Probably a little bit out of reach. You can see the speed here is sort of 37.36. It's a little bit of a lull. Alright, there's a very, it's right down to 35 there. They're probably getting the group together. The gradient's not horrendous, but something has just taken the edge off the speed there, and they're losing time, and coming up to 16 minutes now, but they're getting it back up over the 40 mark. This is where they need to be, and admittedly the gradient's reverse, it's going down now. The second half is slightly more lumpy than the first, which is not, I can say, having ridden it twice with all the shenanigans, or the other night with Team 2, we're not quite sure what happened here, why the avatars split into different sides of the road. If anybody knows, it'd be quite interesting to know what dynamics caused that divergence. But anyway, back together again as a group now, and I'm sure that's something to do with the tech and not the riders, but I've got a feeling in your settings you can have your preferences as to where you veer. We'll have to look into that one. But back as a group now, and we're piling it on to sort of 11.5 kilometres gone, 16, nearly coming up to 17 minutes. The 35 is looking well out of reach now. It's still 38 kph. It's speed is not where they were at earlier. Second half, as I was about to say, is lumpier, but nothing too there's nothing too dramatic in there. The biggest climb they're going to have is coming up just under that 29. It's let's see, King's Lynn. If you look at the bottom, the profile is the green stretch across the bottom. The big blob is where we're at. It's just under the word Kings, going on to the word Lynn, being the town where this is based. The 29, which is where it says 29, that's the steepest climb they're going to have to do. They're back over 41 kph at the moment, which is good news, and that's encouraging. So the speed needs to maintain at this, and I think that little blip they had, as I say, it's down at 34, 35 now, and the gradient's not that high, is it? It's right, it's gone up to a little bit there momentarily, but back up to over 40 kph right now. It is, as long as they can maintain this, they're sort of bang on. I don't think they're going to get the 35 though, and the 36 now becomes a bit of a challenge as they hit the halfway mark. What's the speed? They've got 18:30, so that would make 37 as a time. Would be kind of the back end of where they'd expect to finish now. So that little speed drop earlier on has cost them a little bit. Okay, it is getting slightly lumpier, and they are doing 43.44, which is slightly above where they were, so maybe they'll claw a little bit of that back, but some time lost on that middle section. Now, sometimes you get weary legs, and sometimes you just have to sit up, wait for a rider, because you can go steaming on, get down to 3 riders, and suddenly one of them gets a technical, and you're in trouble. So you might as well have been better off not dropping somebody earlier. And just to fill you in, the VR2 team, when they rode this week, that's exactly what happened. Went down to 3 riders in the latter stages in the second half of the race. Assumed that the 2 that had dropped off had sort of burnt themselves out, and the other 3 would go on to the finish. And one of the first 3 then just got a drop out and stopped, and the front 2 had to wait for one of the riders who'd sat up now to get pedalling again and chase them down and get back on, which meant they had to go slow, and we lost a lot of time to the point where the race was kind of ruined. But we go back to the fact that if you want to do it again before the submission date, you have to sort of get you have to get everybody on the same night, and if we can do that, we'll ride it again. If not, we just have to submit a bad time. Here though, as I say, 5 riders in the team tonight, which is okay, but we should have had 6 and could have had 6. But like I say, getting everybody together at the same time. Now here we've got quite a nice little line. I mean, Frankie's just left a little bit of a gap there, but that's closed up. So this is good. I mean, this is nice line. This is efficient riding. This is what you'd like to see. Speed just under 40, but not too worried about that. It's on and around. It's gone over 40 now, and as I say, some of these bends will turn the brakes on a little bit and slow them down, so you can't expect it to be full pelt all the time, but we need to keep this speed above 40 now. It's down to 37, but we are just going into the climb, so this is the biggest climb, if that's right. You can see the gradient goes up to 2.6 here, and speed right down to 33. It's easing a little bit at 2.0, but the speed right down to 31 as the climb sort of bites. I mean, it's 41, 43, so the gradient is easing off, and speed goes up to 47 as they go down the other side, which is great news, because they didn't lose too much time on that 2.6% gradient. Now 2.6% is not much of a gradient. If you're out on your cycle in the real world riding up that, you wouldn't particularly grumble about it, but when you're riding at full gas with your foot on the pedal, it's if you're on the rivet there, it just takes the edge off, and it makes everything a little bit harder, and of course you're trying to maintain the speed you were riding at, so it does bite. These are tired legs. It's relentless doing this, even though you're not on the front all the time. They're all sort of taking little turns, so we'll see what happens. The line's quite good here, 39.40. Speed is okay. I would say it is lumpy, so they're going up a little bit here, so it's dropped under 40 again. Speed is okay as long as they make that up on the descents. So let's see what happens. Lots of messages coming in from the riders at the moment, and the discussion quite healthy about what's going on with all of this. Everybody quite enthusiastic. We have to take our hat off to James Ogilvie of OTR, who puts on lots and lots of events, including this format, and I do find this format quite exciting, and camaraderie in the team, where you're all working together, which is less the case in open races such as the ones we run ourselves, the West London VR series, where teams do coordinate. I know Ratio Racing are very, very good at this, and some of the big teams that go for the team prize, they do actually work together and speak on Discord, but I'm not sure all the teams do that. I mean, ours certainly don't. They kind of ride individually, see where they come. Frankie Urbano, the Italian, now off the front. There's a little bit of gap that needs closing. That will soon be closed. Stu and Alex will not let that last too long, and you'll see that gap close. It's only 5 or 6 metres, so it's not critical, but of course, 5 or 6 metres, Frankie's putting all that effort in and wasting it. But here they come, coordinated by, of course, Alex Gold and Stuart Thorne. Who else? Pete Dickerson doing very well. Pete was a little bit distraught. He got dropped early in the race last time out, and was slightly despondent. I mean, he's a great lad, is Pete. He's he's been around, he's been racing all his life, and he knows it inside out, and he wants to win, but he's also just one of these guys you want in your team. He's got experience, he encourages everybody, holds it all together, the voice of reason, the voice of experience. Great team captain, and you sort of look at things like football teams where the captain is quite often the one of the older players who just kind of knows how to keep everybody else in line, and Pete's got all of those attributes. they're a great bunch anyway. They're all very sort of easy to get on with, and we'll work together. So it's a nice team to be in. I can't comment on how it compares with other teams because I don't get invited to ride with other teams. In fact, as you can see, I'm not even invited to ride with this one because I'm not actually that good at these things. So I do ride them though. They're absolutely fantastic. Love them, but I'm never going to be the fastest rider out there. Leave that for these guys. Alex Gold, currently our fastest rider, and in the ladies competition we've got Ellen Lockett, who rides on our ladies team, who is also very, very strong. So we're always looking out for riders. If anybody watching is interested in signing up, just go on our website and contact us through the contact button. 17 minutes now. 17 kilometers now, 25 minutes, and it's with 8 to go. You can't see this. It's in danger of hitting 37 now. So as I said, I think if there was a target, it was between 35 and 37. I think this is going to be at the 37 minutes end of things now. Certainly the second half is beginning to bite. These little undulations, you might not really see them when you're watching the video, but I assure you feel them when you're riding them, particularly on the front. You know, if you kind of do a session on the front and it's your turn and it suddenly goes from 0 to even 1%, suddenly you're having to pedal a little bit harder, and of course what you're looking to do is maintain the speed you were at, which is going to take more effort than it did 30 seconds ago or whenever. So I think the undulations telling a little bit. You can see the speed here, 38.39. Again, it's not the speeds they were doing in that first half where it was considerably flatter. So as I say, 37 now must become the target. I think we have to move that target back to 37 and see what happens. 7.5 kilometers to go. Psychologically, when it gets below 5, I think they'll sort of start maybe putting a little bit of extra effort in, because you can if not see the finishing line, you can sense it, if that's the right word. Alex pulling away a little bit. The gaps are emerging here. The stronger rider's still got something left in the tank, and everybody else having to fight to stay on, and sometimes you can waste a lot of energy just staying on, which is better off spent on the front, to be honest. Stuart Thorne there. This is quite tidy. Stuart Thorne at the back, just going past Tobias York, the Swedish flag. Tobias, he's one of the quiet members on Discord, but he's in there absolutely doing his bit for the team, and again, charming guy. We're privileged to have him on our team. So glad he joined. So as you can see, this is nicely bunched, and they all work together very, very well, as I've said, and it's just a case of what can they pull out in the latter stages, and it's just hovering under 40 kph on the speeds again. So the times aren't really where they want. They probably wanted that 40 kph all the way, and it's not going to happen. Again, look, it drops down 37.38. There's some tired legs out there. The stronger riders like Stu and Alex will end up, I think, spending longer on the front. The danger is if they go too fast, they create gaps, and the guys behind gaining nothing if they're just chasing down gaps. If Alex sits up, it slows the overall speed down. What do? It's a hard one. You have to shout at each other during the race and tell them how you feel, what you can do. Alex now needs to have a little look behind and ease up. I think he does know, because it's closing, and closing at 39 kph. So back together again, except for Pete Dickerson. Pete is back on now. Alex Gold at the back. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Alex will finish with something to spare, I assure you. He's a strong rider. I've known Alex for years, and believe you me, he's a gentleman as well. You go out for rides with him, and he knows that he's stronger than everybody else, but just politely waits for everybody and rides a little bit slower so that he's not huffing and puffing at the top. Well, I say huffing and puffing, he's not the guy waiting at the top of the hill looking like you're holding him up. He's always much too polite for that. An absolute gentleman, it has to be said. There comes Alex. He's probably shouting at them now, does anybody want me to take a turn at the front? He was certainly doing plenty of that. But Frankie storming away now, 40 kph. Frankie getting that speed up. So this is good. You can see it sort of slows down for the braking. You can see Frankie's legs stop moving because the RGT system has braked him on that tight bend. he comes out of that. And sometimes these little corners, the way the braking affects different riders at different moments, you can speed off the front a little bit too much, and everybody else now has to chase you down, and that just happened there. Frankie now relinquishing his role at the front as we come down to that psychological 5 kilometres to go. Just 1/5 of the race left. 29 minutes. Is going to be over 30 by the time they get to that last 5 kilometres. They're not going to do 5 kilometres in 6 minutes. Could they do it in 7? Just if they can keep the speed up. Now the speed is now up, and I think there's a little burst of enthusiasm. As I say, for some reason 5 kilometres seems very psychological, and all of a sudden the speed's 43, 44. Okay, the gradient's slightly minus, it's slightly minus, it's negative, it's going to help, but that will just get the spirits up. The speed now 43. This is going to make some time up. They could get below the 37 if they can keep this up. There are still some little bits of upward road, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. The gradients aren't too steep. This is 38 though, and they're on a minus. This should be a bit better. Again, these tight little bends, probably just watch the rider's legs. They do actually spin all the way around those, so probably not being automatically braked on that particular bend, but nevertheless they need to keep it up. 44 they were just hitting there. This is good stuff. They can make some time up here. 30 minutes and 44 seconds and 4.5 kilometers to go. This is going to be tight around that 37 target, isn't it? So have to keep watching. The speed drops a little bit on this upward gradient. It's only 0.5%, and in the first half of the race 0.5% would not have caused this difficulty, but at this moment Tobias on the front, tired legs, hammered out 21 kilometers. He's not going to do 0.5% quite at the speed he might have done it at the start of the race. Everybody else has to stay together. There is no point racing past if you're feeling better. It's not going to do any good. It's all about getting the third rider over the line. You've got to stick together. They don't need to stick together as 5, but you don't really want to break up unless you have to. As I said, the VR2 team decided to break up, let the 3 strongest riders go, and then of course one of them got a technical dropout, and they were down to 2 riders and just had to wait up, and it blew the race apart. If one of the weaker riders had stayed, they'd have got a better time. So as I say, everything's a gamble. We're down to 3.75 kilometers to go, just coming up to 32 minutes. So again, it's going to be between 36 and 37 if they can maintain these sort of speeds. They are hovering around 40, whereas a little while back in that sort of more lumpy section it was dropping down under 40 quite regularly and consistently, and even as low as sort of 35 and things like that. But this is now strong riding, decent speed. Stuart Thorne taking it off the front at the moment, drops momentarily to 38, but they're going over a little bit of a lumpy bit. It'll come back. 40 kph reached again. Alex Gold driving the team forward, and Pete Dickerson, is he off the back or not? Is Pete no, he's in there. It's they're all there, so sorry, I'm misreading that one. So the team's all together with 3 kilometers to go, and whether or not they're going to break up into a strong group now, because there's less risk now. As I've been saying yesterday, as Alex does a little wave for the camera, he's a bit of a show-off, isn't he? I'll have to tell him that. I'm sure he won't mind. And as I say, if you get down to this stage and there are 3 strong riders, you can actually take that risk. Alex looks around again to see who's with him. They've got under 3 kilometers to go. Does this break down into 3 riders, maybe 4 riders that can ride faster than waiting for the 5th or 4th fastest rider? Who knows? And we'll just have to see. You don't know whose legs are tired. I mean, they'll be telling each other, but we don't know as observers. Coming down to around 2.5 kilometers to go, 33.5. So they're certainly not going to hit 35. Whether they can hit 36 minutes, I doubt. 37's maybe still beatable as they pile it on there. Alex Gold on the front, the driving force. He will have the strongest legs. Stu Thorne will be the other one. Tobias Borg still putting York still putting a bit of a stint in. Pete Dickerson on the front there, the doyen of the team, still driving them forward, encouraging them all the way. That's what the captain does. Alex Gold leading by inspiration. Tobias taking a big shunt off the front. Stu Thorne goes with him to fill that gap. Can everybody else follow? Pete Dickerson following Alex Gold, and just to see whether Frankie can stay on. Yes, Frankie's there, so they've got all 5 now. Coming down to 2 kilometres to go, 5 riders. This is a good place to be. If they can take short turns on the front and they're all feeling good, this is great. If not, and you've got 3 strong riders, you need to break this up and take the 3 strongest over the line. The risk can be taken this late, I would suggest. Pete Dickerson there, just on the back, still with the team though. There's a little bit of a gap. Pete will have to get out of the saddle, as you can see his avatar doing, just cling on to the wheel of Tobias there. Still 5 riders, 1.7 kilometres to go. Pete going forward. Can he take a turn on the front? We'll have to see. It's Stu Thorne now. I would have said Stu and Alex are probably the 2 riders that are going to take this forward. Tobias giving it a go though. Alex on the front at the moment as the speed ramps up, 43 kph, and Pete Dickerson just falling off the back. I sense that gap is getting bigger. The 4 are going to have to go for it. They will now make a decision. Pete will tell them whether he can keep up or not. I think he's decided not to. We'll go with the front 4. We're not quite under a kilometre. 1.3 kilometres to go. Just the 4 riders now, so you can still afford 1 Tacanical. If they're all as strong as each other, this needs to be a teamwork effort. If not, just sort out who can who the weakest one is, and if they need to drop off, they need to drop off. So we come down 1.1 kilometres to go. We're way over 35, so we're going to go over 36 minutes. It's definitely over 36. Can we keep it under 37 is a big question. Kilometre to go, and it's just under 36, so they can't do a kilometre in a minute. But what can we got? I think it's it's going to be. I think it's going to be around 37, isn't it? We've been saying that for a while. I don't know that they can get this under 37, but it's going to be very close. 700 meters to go and 45 seconds to do it in. This is going to be very close. Frankie Urbana taking a turn on the front, tightly together. Alex on the back. Alex will be the big shunt at the end, I suspect. Either him or Stu. Frankie absolutely blowing out of every orifice, I suspect, as he leads the charge. 43.5 kilometres an hour, 400 metres to go, 20 seconds if they're going to beat 37 minutes. I don't think they're going to do it, but can they get very close? It's Alex now pushing on the front. Frankie on. Stu Thorne just drifting off. They're down to 3 riders for the 250 metres left. We can see the finishing line in front, 36.59. So they've gone over 37, but how much will it be? I think it's going to be probably about 10, I would guess. It's difficult to see quite how close they are to the finishing line, but they're not as close as you might think. That's where we watch Stuart rolling. 37.12, 13, 14. I think 37.14 is going to be around the time as Stu Thorne crosses the line at 37.21, but it's the 3rd rider in the group above in front that's going to count, about a 37.14. So we'll have to see how well that does. Just watching Pete come in at 37.57. Pete obviously sat up. We await the other team's results. See you soon.